Harris here, MD Online Editor. It's Friday. Haven't done a live video in a while. Well, when it wasn't covering a contest. Something was posted the other day I really wanted to talk about. On Mark Lobleiner's Instagram page, he showed a clip of a young kid posting on TikTok about his trend transformation. Kid looked like he was about 16, 15, 16, maybe 17. So, you know, his post, Mark, was about this trend. We see a very young kids getting on gear now. And it's because they're so much more aware of it because of social media. And there was a comment in there that really inspired me. Someone named Eric_Gwyn, GWIN, said, "We wanted transparency of gear usage in the community so kids weren't misled by what kind of physique should be attained naturally and or to avoid disingenuous coaches and false claims. Instead, we now have teeny boppers shaving years off their life, taking hardcore gear selections with no basic knowledge of the gear, let alone the support systems and lab work to go with it, and even less knowledge of training and diet requirements as highlighted by their subpar physiques. I'm all for people using gear, but man, do it with proper guidance." Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of these teenage gear transformations that they could have been done naturally. It's just, you know, they're in a rush. They want to get it now. I get that. You know, when you're a young kid, you just can't wait for anything. But trend, I don't hear kids talking about I want to go on steroids now. It's I'm going to go on trend. Trend, as most of you know, very powerful, very toxic steroid. Even advanced bodybuilders tend to not like to be on it for very long, more than a few weeks. A lot of bad side effects. Obviously, you get the trend cough when you inject it. That goes away pretty quickly. A lot of people get irritable, moody, angry. Sex drive goes through the roof, which can suck if you don't have a girlfriend or someone to have sex with and you have this raging sex drive. And, you know, then you get the side effects. It's very toxic to your kidneys. It's a harsh drug. Insomnia, you'll be up late at night, can't sleep. This is like, so a beginner starting off on tren, a young guy, this is like someone who's never driven a car before. Instead of putting them in a little economy car, I don't know, like a Prius or something, Toyota Prius or a Ford Escort, do they still make those? You're putting them in like a Lamborghini, a Bugatti, something with, you know, 1,000 horsepower, a V12 engine, where they could very easily just touch the gas pedal and crash and die because they have no knowledge. They've never driven before, but you're putting them behind the wheel of this powerful, potentially deadly machine because they don't know how to operate it. So we're seeing a lot of these kids, a lot of young guys, teenagers. And here's what I don't get. They're posting and bragging about it on social media. Do their parents not have access to their, you know, TikTok, Instagram, all their accounts? Do they not see what's going on? I honestly have no idea. So yeah, guys, this is really, really, the whole point is, for many years, I got to get back to the point. For many years, there was never any discussion of steroids in the magazines. That's all we had was the magazines. There was no social media until fairly recently, guys. Weider magazines in particular never mentioned steroids. It's like they didn't exist, which, yeah, that's disingenuous because these athletes they were showcasing on the cover and inside, they were on PEDs, they were on steroids. Mostly back then it was just steroids. MD came along. Well, MD was already around. MD started really getting the word out there. We had columns by like a few different guys. Dave Palumbo had a column about steroids. Bill Llewellyn had one. We had a few. We had a lot of steroid information. And now it's gotten to the point where, because of social media and especially YouTube is very competitive, one way for someone to get more clicks and views is to say, here's the steroids I'm taking, to come out and say it and tell everyone exactly, here are the drugs, here are the doses. Or they'll say, I know all the pros, here's what all the pros use, and people eat that shit up. And, you know, the problem that old fuddy-duddies like me, old farts like me were saying, this is dangerous, guys, because these kids are going to imitate that. They're going to go out and do those cycles. So if you want to know exactly what a pro uses, well, don't tell me like a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid's not going to try to replicate that. Of course he is. They say, well, where's he going to get the money? They'll find the money. They'll find the drugs. Where there's a will, there's a way. You know, it's not like drugs or PEDs are that hard to get. And there's still this really ridiculous curiosity. It's entitlement to know exactly what the pros use. People demand to know what I use, and they get very angry. Say, tell the truth, tell the truth. I had to block a guy last week because he was messaging me. He was getting really angry and threatening at one point. He says, you better tell the truth about what you're using. And you don't know. What? No, I don't. I don't have to say a damn thing. I don't owe you shit, dude. But anyway, point is, I always felt that it was a bad idea to lay out there what the pros were using, even if it was what they were actually using. Because even if it is the 2 to 3 grams, which most people say, no, they're on way more than that. Even if it's 2 to 3 grams, that's not something a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid should be doing. They shouldn't be doing any steroids, but they shouldn't be doing grams and grams steroids. They shouldn't be doing very harsh, advanced steroids like Tren. If they're going to do anything, it should be a little bit of test, a little bit of DECA or something like that. Guys, all right, I can see there's already some comments coming in, so I know this is a good subject because we all have an opinion on this, so I want to hear what you guys have to say. So let's get it started. That guy 6 hate me. He says these kids are going to fry their systems up by the time they're 25. Yeah, that's what a lot of guys. That's a point I didn't even mention was these kids are destroying their body's ability to produce its own testosterone. If you take steroids for long enough, your body's never going to make it on its own again, ever. And you're going to have to be on a minimum of TRT. Do you really want to be on that when you're like 22, 23 years old, where your body's never going to make tests again because you were 16, 17, 18, 19, you had to run all this gear with results that you could have gotten naturally. Now, don't get me wrong. You can get much, much bigger on steroids than you can without steroids. I'm not suggesting otherwise for a minute. But when I see these transformations these kids are making, it's nothing that they couldn't have done naturally. It would have taken them longer. It's not like these kids look like freaking Mr. Olympia competitors. They don't. They look like someone in the gym that's got a little bit of muscle. Nothing special. Nothing that would be worth risking your health, destroying your endocrine system, your HPTA, your hormonal axis, so you can never produce it again. All right, now let's get back to you guys. So that guy 6 says, lifetime natty here, 34 years old, been training since I was 14, grew 20-inch arms at 245 naturally, with a decent outline in my abs, 315 incline, 135 incline dumbbell, 315 bent rows, 405 squat for reps. Yeah, those are very, very, very respectable numbers. Good job. Wild Joker says, Tren twins, yeah. You have young guys, very young guys that they look up to, good-looking, jacked kids called the Tren twins who claim they only did Tren for a little while, but they're called the Tren twins, and they have millions of followers and views on their YouTube. That's not gonna sway a bunch of young kids to go on Tren. They want to look like these jacked kids, and now one of them has got like some super hot Instagram girlfriend. Of course, they want to do whatever their idols are doing, and if it's massive amounts of gear, that's what they're gonna do. Let's see, that guy 6, it is possible to do it naturally. Consistency and nutrition will always be king. Well, it is possible to build a very good physique naturally, but I don't like to lie. I don't like to mislead anybody. You're going to be able to ultimately achieve a bigger, more impressive physique on steroids and PEDs than you would otherwise. You'll get to a natural limit, and to surpass that, that's where the drugs come in. But most of these kids, they're nowhere. There are kids out there, there's a lot of kids out there, not that this has never been done before, but they're starting gear from day one. Before they've even know anything about training nutrition, they're already getting on gear. It's nuts. Let's see. Liver King. That Joker says, that's crazy. Magazines are so much better. Well, yeah, obviously I think I'm going to say that because I'm a magazine writer for all those years. Wild Joker 98, it's all because of social media for sure. Yeah, social media is just, it's making a lot of people nuts, and it's having a lot of negative impact on mental health, our society in general, behavior. It's nuts. I'm glad I didn't have it when I was a kid. That guy 6 says, kids don't want to work nowadays. It's all about what pill can I take. Back in the day, we had to put skin in the game. Yeah, I'm so glad that when I started lifting, I never heard the word steroids. This is back in the early 80s. Didn't know they existed. Didn't know that you couldn't get any bigger or stronger without steroids. So I did. It took me a long time. And eventually, in my late 27, I did get on steroids. But I had a solid 14 plus years of training before that. Built a really good base of size and strength. Then I went on steroids. But I'm seeing more and more of these young kids with no base at all. Nothing. Day one in the gym. Never touched a weight. And they're already on gear. It's like training shoes or something. That guy's 6. Zach Berge, I hope my 15-year-old ain't using it. Looks questionable. He's ripped. Well, I mean, if my 15-year-old son, you can't beat kids anymore in America and in the USA. Maybe in other countries you're still allowed to whack your kids around. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, as a parent, you need to know what's going on. My son will be 24 next month. My daughter's 29. My kids are grown. They're old enough to be parents, for God's sake. But yeah, guys, if you're parents, you got to keep an eye on these kids, man. Jeez, especially if they're looking at juice heads and want to be one. That guy 6, I'm barely running my first cycle after 20 years of training and proper diet, knowing my body, numerous years doing bulk and cut cycles, barely starting 200 meg of test, only because I plan on competing. I mean, 200 milligrams of test, that's a TRT dose. That's nothing crazy at all. Our stuff, the mental health is a big aspect also. Grown men can usually handle the loss of muscle during PCT. Most teens barely know who they are psychologically. Yeah, I mean, teenagers, they're not fully mature, obviously. The brain isn't even done developing. That's why they're so susceptible. That's why, since we've had civilizations and war, most of the soldiers have been young men, like teenagers, 15 to 20-year-olds, because they don't think they have no concept of mortality. They think they're invincible, they're indestructible. You tell a 16-year-old kid, hey, don't do that trend. That's bad for your liver. They're like, shut up, my liver. Nothing's going to happen to me. So they're not really concerned about the future. They're thinking about right now. I get it. I was young once. Luckily, I was young in a different era where we didn't have all this stuff. I'm so glad I didn't grow up now. Oof. Raymond Jones, you can't control what kids want to do. No, you can't. The only thing you can do is, as a parent, if you're a parent and I don't know how many of you guys are parents out there, and it's mostly boys doing this, obviously, not girls so much. If you have a son and you see all of a sudden he's getting big and puffy and zitty and he's putting on muscle, put 2 and 2 together, and it's it's your way or the highway. You're supporting this kid. You can ground him. Do they still ground people? You can't leave the house. I'm cutting off your allowance. Whatever you got to do. Get this kid in, because you can't. That's like allowing your kid to be a recreational drug addict. I mean, they're doing irrevocable damage to their hormonal systems. Like I said, you're going to have kids by the time they're before they're even out of high school, they're never going to be able to produce testosterone again, because some of them, you can't tell them, no, you got to go off and do PC. They'll do high doses until the wheels fall off. They see these gains, they want to keep the gains. They go off drugs and they start losing it. They're going to go right back on again. I mean, once you've been bigger and stronger, you never want to go back. It's just the way it is. Let's see, that guy 6. That guy 6, absolutely max out your natural potential first. That didn't happen after 3 years training. You're a good example, Ron. Waited years before you started PDs, had a great base naturally. Yeah, he had 14 years of training. Don't tell me that's not a long time. And I don't really regret starting, because I've been very, very lucky. Most people wouldn't be so lucky as I've been health-wise. They wouldn't. I get blood work done 2 or 3 times a year. I have a cardiologist. I get the heart scans. I do the stress test, the calcium score. I do all that. And people get really angry that I'm so relatively healthy for all the gear that I've done. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just lucky. My body's very resilient, but I would not recommend it. It's your mileage may vary. Some people will do far less steroids than I ever did, and they will be screwed up. They will have serious health problems. I know people who've done what I did, and they're dead. I mean, they're gone, so I don't know them anymore, obviously. Double M, I think it's less that they think they're invincible. They just don't care about longevity. Yeah, you have no concept. When you're like a teenager, being 30 years old, you can't even imagine that. That's like 40, 50, forget about it. I'm never going to be that old. That's like a million years from now. They just have I had no concept when I was in high school. I couldn't imagine being, even in my late 20s, I couldn't imagine being 30. That seemed like so old, so far away. So you're not worried about what's my body, what's my health going to be like at 40, 50. Last thing on their minds, guys. Last thing on their thinking about. I'm jacked. I'm gonna film myself doing these incline presses with 40-pound dumbbells and flex, and everyone's gonna love me, and I'll get clicks and views, and maybe I'll become a coach. I don't know. Raymond Jones, Ron is cycle shaming. No, I mean, who am I? I can't shame. I don't want to see young kids doing it, because they're already putting themselves at risk. and they're way too young. I have no problem with responsible adults who've done the research, who have a base, they know how to train, they know how to eat, they have decent mental health. They're not going to be a psychotic and have all kinds of mental issues. Believe me, do I seem like I'm against steroid use? Come on, I've been on steroids for many years myself, many years. I'm not shaming anybody. I just hate seeing young kids on it. That guy, six again, says, I've seen so many guys in my gym, especially that look like trash, yet they're on gear and talk openly about it. It's embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times you'll see people, I have an eye for like the skin texture, the water blow, things like that. But a lot of the people in the gym, they're on gear. You wouldn't suspect they're on gear because they don't look that great. It's not like everyone takes gear. That's a misconception that everyone's just going to take some gear and kaboom, you're going to look like a pro bodybuilder. No. Most people could take all the gear in the world for years and years. They're never going to look like a pro bodybuilder because they don't have the genetics. You have to have the genetics. People hate hearing that because you can't change your genetics. You're born with your muscle bellies, your bone structure. It's all malleable. You can't change any of that. You can maximize anything that you have. If you believe in God, we say we do the best what God gave you. Say that all the time. That guy six, you do cardio year round, Ron? Oh, of course. I do cardio year round for my health and just to burn some calories and stimulate some metabolism. There's so many benefits to cardio. Obviously, a lot of young guys aren't going to do it, especially if they're having a hard time putting on weight. They're not going to do anything that's going to burn more calories, but it actually stimulates your appetite, allows you to eat more. I encourage even young guys out there, do a little bit of cardio. You don't have to do an hour or something a day, anything ridiculous like that. 30 minutes, 3-4 times a week should be like a good baseline for anybody, just for your general health. Cardio is very important for your heart, your lungs, to keep them healthy. Believe me, if your heart and lungs are not healthy, good luck trying to get good results training as a bodybuilder. Raymond Jones again, didn't Lee Priest start bodybuilding at a young age? Yeah, but I don't believe Lee touched a steroid until he was like 18 or 19, which, he'd already won the Mr. Australia, not the junior or teenage. He had won the Mr. Australia by the time he was starting to use steroids. He was very, we make exceptions for people that are incredible bodybuilders, incredibly gifted genetically. Lee Priest is 1 in a million. You guys, none of you are like Lee Priest. I'm not like Lee Priest. There's only one Lee Priest. Yeah. That guy six, a lot of these gym bros taking gear I see wouldn't even place at lower tier natty bodybuilding show. It's amazing, LOL. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to seem like I'm shaming or being a hypocrite, but I see people on gear that look like crap, and I'm like, should just stay natural. Like, you're a little bigger and puffier, but you don't look that much better. But you're risking your health. Again, I'm on gear, so who am I to talk? Dustin Ransom, if it's only built on gear, it will be gone once they stop using. So what's the point? Yeah, it's like, I've had this discussion with my son. He's natural. He's almost 24. And I remind him all the time. I said, I don't know if you'd be as lucky as I am. I don't think you would be. He's already got ulcerative colitis. He's on meds for that. He's already got that going on. I wouldn't want to see him complicate. I would feel so bad if he had health problems as a result of gear, thinking that, I'll be able to take him safely just like my dad. I'd say, no. Most people aren't lucky like me. I've just been very, very fortunate. But yeah, one thing I do say to him is, when you're on gear, some percentage of what you have, the muscle mass you have, is borrowed. It's not yours to keep, because once you go off the gear, you're going to lose some of that muscle. It varies from person to person. There's no exact, people say you're going to lose all of it. No, you don't lose all of it. Some people lose about half. Some people lose a little more, a little less. It varies from person to person. It's nothing uniform across the board like that. But when you're on gear, at least some of the muscle mass you have, and with some people, most of the muscle mass they have is borrowed. And when they go off the gear, they lose a lot of it. Some people do keep more than others, but yeah, some of it's going to go. Nobody keeps all the muscle mass on gear when they go off. Nobody. It's impossible. That's why there's gear. It preserves muscle tissue. It builds more muscle tissue than the human body is naturally capable of. That's why people use it. A nice guy says, I started TRT after I was 40, and both my boys have it in their heads. They want to use gear. They're 21 and 19, trying to talk them out of it. Guess I shouldn't have told them. Well, I mean, it's fine to be honest like that. I mean, you're in a different situation. You're 40 years old, and I'm assuming you're on TRT because your own testosterone levels were dwindling fast. They were nothing like they were in your teens and 20s. You know, at 19 and 21, their test levels should be through the freaking roof. So, you know, if my son, he's 40 years old, which, you know, it's only, it's far away, but if he's 40 years old or whatever, and he has a legitimate need for TRT, I would want him to go on TRT to bring him to normal levels, not, you know, mega cycles a year. I would never want him to do that. I would never want my son to take that risk. And luckily right now, he's not interested in that. That guy 6 says, he's talking about cardio. I do 30 minutes, 6 days a week in my off season for metabolism, appetite, and heart health. Man, most importantly, yeah. Your heart, guys, most important muscle in your body. You see that most of these bodybuilders that have died or have serious problems, it's the heart. Kidneys too, but the heart. Once your heart goes, you're done. So take care of that, guys. Please take care of your hearts. That guy 6, talking about Lee Priest, looked outstanding naturally as a kid. LOL, yeah. He was beating grown men as a kid. Lee was destined to be a great bodybuilder. Yeah, you'll see pictures. Google young Lee Priest in Google Images. You'll see when he was 13, he already had a crazy physique for 13. Better than I ever had with all the gear in the world at like 40 after many years of gear. He was a genetic phenomenon. You know, he looked incredible. Zach Berge says, lift every day, you might look better than a lazy D-ball guy. Yeah. I mean, if anyone thinks they can just take steroids and not train, come on, obviously there were studies with like elderly people where they put on a little bit of muscle even without any training. But for the most part, guys, yeah, you still have to train. Let's see. Jerry Iannuzzi, what's up, Jerry? The young guys should go see a few natural shows and see what the natural guys look like. That's a good target to aim for. Go win a couple of natural shows and evaluate yourself there. Yeah, you'll notice I actually want to take my son to a natural show pretty soon because he wants to compete, and I don't want him competing in an, I won't name any organizations, but I don't want him competing in an organization where chances are very high everyone he's going to compete against is, you know, using all kinds of PEDs. And if you go to a natural show and see, oh, they're not that big, you'll see they get pretty lean, but there's no 250-pound freaks. There's no guys looking like pro bodybuilders on stage at a natural show because they're not on the drugs. But you'll see that they still look pretty damn good. And, you know, unless your standard is that you have to be a big freak pro bodybuilder, you know, that's a problem. Is there's so many of these influencers now that they don't compete, but a lot of them have really, really good physiques. And they're all, most of them, even if they claim natty, most of them are on gear. Most of them are on PEDs. You're going to say SARMs, whatever. Most of them are assisted. They're not natural. These influencers and people that see on Instagram. And, you know, for many years, bodybuilding was a cultish sport. We had the magazines. Yeah, people went out and bought the magazines. They sold well for many years. But compared to the access these kids have now on their phones, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all these platforms, they see every day all these amazing physiques. People who are jacked, veiny, big, busting out arms, six-pack abs. You know, they want to look like that, and they want to look like that now. So yeah, social media is a huge influence on so many of these kids wanting to get big and muscular, especially young boys. You know, they're trying to find an identity. They want to, you know, they want to intimidate other guys. They want to get the girls. I mean, I get it. That was me, but luckily, I didn't have all these temptations. I didn't even know steroids existed back at that age. Thank God. I probably would have been on them. That guy 6 says, top tier natty bodybuilders when their condition look amazing, absolutely shredded. Even Doug Miller, who's a massive guy, competed in the low 190s, and he was massive. Yeah, I've met Doug before. That guy 6, Kiyoshi Moody, another awesome natural bodybuilder, 6 or 7 times natty Mr. O. Yeah, I was actually, the first year I did Team Universe, 2009, and I was in the light heavies, and Kiyoshi was in my class. I don't know how he did. I think he was in the top 3 or 4 or something, but he was in my class. I was like, oh shit, isn't that cute? I know this dude. He beat me. I was like 9th out of 11 or 9th out of 13 guys at my first Team U. Yeah. And but yeah, I mean, if kids knew what they were actually capable of, I don't know if it would matter because they would still want to get there now. If you tell a kid, you know, you can look like this, it's going to take you a couple years. You're going to have to do this and that. They're like, oh, years? Are you crazy? I don't have years. I got to look like that now. Guy 6, John Hansen, also natty Mr. O. Yeah, John's still going. I think he's a little older than me. I'm 54 next month. He's got to be at least as old as me, if not older. Good dude, good dude. But man, yeah, I mean, like I said, the title of this was "The Truth Did Not Set You Free." People were clamoring for the truth. They want to know what cycles, what drugs are being used. And I thought it was a bad idea for people to come out and talk about it in detail, because I said, you watch, kids are just going to go out and do it. They're just going to go out and do those cycles. And everyone's like, no, they won't. Please. You see somebody who looks the way you want to look, you're going to want to do whatever they're doing. Like I saw this, what's his name, Sam Sulek kid, the one that Hostile just signed. And I saw, I think, Coach Greg Doucette did a video about him, how he was like a bad influence. Not that he's trying to be a bad influence, but kids want to look like him, and they know they need to be on gear. And they're asking in the comments on one of his videos, does anybody know his cycle or any idea? Because I don't think Sam's come out and said it. I don't know anything about Sam, but I don't think he's come out and said what he uses. But people will speculate, and they'll do whatever they think he's using. And if someone says, I bet he's using 5 grams of this, 3 grams of that, so I'm like, all right, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. Nice guy says, you disclose you have used nandrolone. Yeah, that's Deca, many times. I was prescribed along with testosterone. It seemed like it messed with my head a little. Is that something you ever dealt with? Not from nandrolone, I never did, but Tren has messed me up, where I got, very short fuse, short temper. Just things set me off. Things bothered me, annoyed me. Like you get like road rage. People annoy you that wouldn't normally annoy you. It's kind of like when women have PMS. It's like you have PMS. Like everything annoys you. You're like, nah. You're just on edge all the time. Halo testing, which I used to take as an oral in the last like 3 weeks before a show. Same thing. It would just really mess me up. Deca, I never had issues with Deca as far as I know. But I have heard that. Yeah. JJ says Deca does same to me, bro. It screws up my libido, also not worth it. Yeah, it's because I think it raises your prolactin. Even Tren, after being on it a while, I believe it has the opposite effect, where you get this in the beginning, your first few weeks on Tren, you have this raging sex drive. Like you want to bang everything. You want to bang that desk right there. But over time, I think your prolactin levels go up. And I apologize if I sound ignorant. I'm not a steroid expert. That's why I talk to Dr. T every Monday. We do the show Tuesday. He's an expert. That guy says, even though they're genetic freaks, look at Ronnie and Kai. Both were natural. I believe that. I guarantee you a bunch of people go, nah, they were never natural. They came out of their mom's coochie on drugs. No. Even though they're genetic freaks, look at Ronnie and Kai. Both were natural. Well into their late 20s and early 30s before they touched anything. Ronnie, I think, was 30 when he took his first cycle. Ronnie was definitely older. And that guy says, had 20-inch arms while delivering pizza, lol. Yeah, you see pictures of Ronnie in college. We played football at Grambling State in Louisiana. In his uniform, he had these big arms busting out of his football jersey. Yeah, I know that's a sore subject, because a lot of people, they refuse to believe that Kai term was ever natural or Ronnie was ever natural. Kai was competing as a teenager. He was a pro-natural bodybuilder in this WNBF organization when he was like 19. He was already 200 pounds, 210, something like that at 5'8". And I believe he was natural, because once he got on gear, once he got some money or whatever, a sponsor, he blew the F up. And Ronnie went from competing, he went from being like a guy who was on stage around 220, 225, 10th place, 12th place. He went from that to being on stage around 250 and winning shows within like a year's time. And it's when he went on gear. He was already a pro, guys, for a couple of years before that. Then when he went on gear, he went kaboom, blew up, started winning shows. And, a couple of years after that, he's Mr. Olympia. Let's see. Do you hear about the enhanced Olympics now? That's a funny idea, though. That guy 6, anyone who has any bit of muscle nowadays must be on steroids, lol. That's the logic we're dealing with these days. Yeah. Like I said, I feel so fortunate that when I was young and starting out training and all that, I was a dumbass. I didn't know anything. We didn't have very good advice at that time. We're talking about the early 80s, mid 80s. But I didn't know anything about steroids either. So I didn't know you can't build any muscle without steroids. Didn't know that. So I went and built muscle. So many people did. I mean, for years and years, people built muscle without steroids. They got bigger and stronger. And then they would go on, a lot of them would go on steroids and get even bigger and stronger than that. But they had a good base that they built naturally. And I really like to see anyone who's going to use gear build a natural base, not only because you're going to get better results in the long run, but because you'll get more out of you'll get better results from the gear if you know what the hell you're doing. If you know how to train properly, you figured out your body, certain exercises, splits, figured out what works for you nutrition-wise and training-wise, then you add the gear, the results are going to be so much better instead of what, like I said, these young kids, they don't know what the hell they're doing yet. They don't even know how to train. They don't know how to eat. They're just thinking the trend or whatever is going to do all the work for them. Yeah, they'll get a little bigger. They would have gotten much better results if they knew what the hell they were doing. Yeah. Try equipoise instead of DECA, same results, few side effects. Yeah, I always like DQ. Naveen Nagrath, which is best, DECA or trend for fat loss in beginner cycle? Trend should not be in a beginner cycle. It's a drug for advanced bodybuilders. And fat loss? No, steroids aren't for fat loss. They're not. They're to build muscle and strength. You'll get a little leaner if you have more muscle mass that's burning more calories at rest, but diet, cardio, that's how you lose fat. It's not, DECA doesn't get you ripped. Trend doesn't get you ripped. No. See, this is an example, Naveen, and I'm not trying to shame you or anything, but this is an example of someone, you have no business using steroids because you don't know anything yet. You have no knowledge of training, nutrition, nothing, but you want to get on steroids, and you're just representative of a lot of people out there. I'm not picking on you personally. It's just you are pointing out a really good example of what I'm talking about. It's people that have no idea what they're doing, but they want to get on steroids. Learn all about this stuff before you use the steroids. Please. All the info's out there. We have this internet. You have no excuse to be ignorant now except laziness. When I was a kid, what were you going to do? You could buy books, magazines, go to the library and hope you found something, but we didn't have, you can go on your phone right now, any of you, and find all this info like that. Google. We didn't have Google. Cal, it shows it's a real thing. A hedge fund is going to put on 8 sport enhanced Olympics. That's hilarious. I am pro, don't lease to me noob, Anavar/Oxa. Yeah, Anavar has shown properties of burning a little fat around the belly, but yeah, it's your diet and it's your cardio, guys. If you're relying on if you're looking for a steroid, it's just like anyone else. Lazy Americans especially, they're such suckers for anything, any pill or cream that promises they're going to be able to lose weight fast. That's why these scam companies sell all kinds of stupid diet products, and because people don't want to diet. They don't want to do cardio. It's just like, tell me what pill to take. Tell me what cream I could put on. I just want the results. I don't want to work for it. That sucks. That guy 6, Cali Muscle, who's now suffering major health complications as a result of his past decisions, look phenomenal naturally. Yeah, he has great genetics. He would look good, a little smaller, a little bigger. He always would look good. Raymond Jones says, what if you're young but hire a coach to help you? Well, how young are we talking, Raymond? Are we talking like 21 or are we talking like 15? And the coach, some of these coaches, they're like 20-year-old. A lot of these coaches now are like, they're kids. I go to a very big gym, Bayshore Athletic Club, Braintree, Mass. I'd say there's, based on their Instagram bios, 30 or 40 of these people under the age of like 24 are coaches. And, they have good genetics, a lot, and they look good. So people, especially like a lot of these girls, they'll sell their booty building programs or, meal plans. Anybody can be a coach. There's no certification bureau or something to check to make sure they're a legitimate coach. You could and should always investigate, talk to their clients, see what kind of track record they have, what kind of results they've gotten, because there's no certification program for coaches. They don't have to have any sort of degree or anything like that. So anybody can be a coach. But yeah, if I'd rather see someone working with a good coach than just winging it, not knowing anything. Obviously, knowledge is power. I do want people to know what the hell they're doing. The more you know, as they used to say, the better off you'll be, because you'll make informed decisions. Raymond Giles, didn't Giles start bodybuilding at a young age? I'm not sure how old Giles was. Giles, yeah, I think he was a little older than me. I mean, My first weight set was, I was 13. I got my first weight set at the house. So that was almost 41 years ago. It would have been Christmas, 41 years ago this Christmas, I got my first weight set. That guy's 6. I'd rather hire Ron as a coach. I quit coaching. These kids advertising themselves as coaches is ridiculous. But you know what? They're trying to make a buck. The money's there. I get it. You can't hate on them. They see an opportunity to make easy money. I'll just sell meal plans, coaching. But, you know, it's always suspect if they say, like, 3 spots still available, or they try to make it seem, you know, like there's only a couple spots left for coaching. Believe me, guys, they're going to take any clients they can, any money they can. Yeah, I stopped coaching. It was too much work. I didn't want to deal with people like all day bugging me. Can I eat this? I feel tired. Yeah, you're supposed to feel tired. You're supposed to feel hungry. I couldn't deal with the babysitting aspect of it, where just people complaining all the time. I'm not that patient. I would only want to work with super dedicated people who were never going to complain, and there's not many of them like that. Most people, they're not that dedicated. And another issue that I ran into as a coach was people that were competing or wanted to compete. They would go like most of the year on their own, screwing around, not making any improvements. Then they'd hire me. The show was like 16 weeks away. That's like, well, now I got to bring up my legs. I got to do this. I'm like, you should have been doing all that in the off season. This is not the time. This is not the time to try to bring up body parts, to add mass. You should have been doing that these past like 6 months when you're effing around. You know, now you want to get serious. No, people who are great bodybuilders who do really well, they're serious all the time. 12 months a year. They don't just get serious. Oh, show's coming up. Time to get dedicated. No. Anyway, I think we've said our piece. Guys, I know there's probably going to be a couple more, but if you're watching this in the replay live, please leave some comments. I love interacting with you guys, responding to your questions, comments. Obviously, it won't be live. It'll be, you know, a little bit later. Nice guy. My worst meal of the day is breakfast. I'm never hungry and struggle to get anything down. Think about skipping it and eating last meal later in the night. Yeah, there are a lot of people like that. They don't have much of an appetite in the morning. That's a case where I would probably encourage you to do like a big shake. Ideally, I like to see everyone have a really good breakfast. You know, eggs, oats, big solid breakfast. But if you don't have a really good appetite, you're better off probably just having like a protein shake and, you know, big piece of fruit or, you know, cereal, something like that. Something solid to go along with the shake, but not so much that you're going to be like, ugh. But most people can get a big shakedown. So even just a smoothie or whatever, you could just have, you know, blend up like some vanilla whey protein, throw some strawberries in there, whatever kind of fruit you like. Have it in like skim milk. That'd be a pretty good breakfast for someone that has no appetite. And you're not going to sit there and eat, you know, 4 or 5 eggs and a bunch of oatmeal or cream of wheat and stuff like that. Our stuff. Just wondering if you can find out how the Masters Olympia will be shown. Olympia app? I don't know. They have a Masters Olympia official Instagram. Go to the bio on that, and they should have links and stuff for all that stuff. Because, yeah, I don't know, but I'm sure it's going to be. They'll have a pay-per-view for it. They'll have a pay-per-view. I'm sure they will. I mean, all these other shows do. Especially that's being run out of Romania. All the Romania Muscle Fest show always has a good pay-per-view. Yeah, you'll be able to see it. Don't worry about that. Anyway, guys, yeah, I think I'm going to wrap it up. So questions or comments, I hope you have some. Mostly comments. Leave your comments here, guys. You don't have to agree with me. If you did, if everyone just agreed with me, it'd be kind of boring. So you can disagree, agree, whatever you want to say. Put it in the comments. I will respond to them. I appreciate all the feedback. And that's it, guys. It's Friday, so have an awesome weekend. Take care of yourselves. And that's it. Appreciate you watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, turn notifications, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.